Zerbst. Psychology major, abolishing slavery. Unfortunately, this world is a dark, dark place. Unfortunately, because of certain privileges that have been bestowed on us, our eyes are blind to certain horrors that are happening all across the globe. Unfortunately, this problem that I'm going to talk about this evening has been plaguing the earth for centuries and has been claiming millions of victims. Fortunately, there's something we can do about it. According to an article posted by a celebration of women on December 2nd, 2013, there are approximately 27 million slaves still in the world today. These slaves are caught and kept under control through what is now commonly called human trafficking. I first learned about human trafficking about 4 years ago when I went to the Forward Conference and heard Christine Caine speak. Christine Caine is the founder of the 8021 campaign, an organization designed and bred to abolish slavery in the 21st century. So this evening we're going to talk about human trafficking and what the 8021 campaign does to fight it. And now if you're like me, you're going to want to check out right now, because ignorance is bliss, right? You know, I don't want to hear about something crappy, because then I'm going to feel crappy, so I'd rather just tune out. But I promise, you might feel crappy in a second, but I'm not going to leave you there. I'm going to empower all of us to make a difference. So, human trafficking is such a horrible act against humanity because it's happening all over the place to people who are too poor or powerless to fight against it. I'm going to give 3 quick details about human trafficking that I think we should all know. The first, arguably most important, is the definition. My favorite definition for human trafficking comes from Annie Durkin, who wrote this for the Global Rescue Relief on April 6, 2012. She says that, simply put, human trafficking is modern-day slavery. Through trafficking, individuals are sold for purposes of labor and sexual exploitation. It is one of the most complex human rights issues facing our world today. It is also one of the most hidden, which is why stopping the crime is as difficult as defining the term. So the second piece on human trafficking that I think we should all know is an important demographic. About 76% of the victims of human trafficking are women. This means that 2 things. Number 1, yes, guys can be trafficked too, but number 2, if you're female, you're definitely at an increased risk and vulnerability to become a victim of human trafficking. The third thing that I think we should know about human trafficking is that while it's prevalent in third world countries, it happens on American soil as well, especially in hustle and bustle cities such as Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and what is known as the hotspot of human trafficking just 2 hours away in Atlanta, Georgia. Now, human trafficking in America constitutes primarily of 2 different forms. Both these forms were referenced in the documentary titled Not My Life by Richard Young and Robert Bellheimer, which came out in October 2011. And so, this documentary shares these testimonies of victims who have been trafficked this way in America. The first references a woman who was hired outside of the country to come and be like a nanny or a house servant for a wealthy couple in Washington, D.C. It ended up where she had to watch the kids all day long. She made all the meals, cleaned everything. She was only able to nap for a couple hours each night on the kitchen floor, and she wasn't paid any wages, which is illegal. The second form of human trafficking that commonly happens in America is something we're a little bit more familiar about, hearing about in the news and whatnot, and that's prostitution, where someone who has power takes advantage of someone in a place of vulnerability and makes them perform sexual acts for money, which is also illegal in a lot of places. So that's the 3 things I think we should all know about human trafficking. Is the definition, that important demographic that women are more vulnerable, and that happens here in America just as well. So, that being said, crappy part over. How can we help? What can we do about this? I choose to fight human trafficking by partnering with the 821 campaign. And I thought I could describe what the 821 campaign was about, but I thought I would rather leave it up to Christine Caine, the founder. I got this letter in February 2014 from Christine Caine through the 821 campaign. And in this letter, she talks about her vision and why it began. Her and her husband first heard about it, and then they heard messages from victims about what happened and how they were caught and what they had to do to stay alive and for their families to stay alive. And so with that, she says she was shaken to the core and knew she had to do something. And so in the letter, verbatim, it says, so the 821 campaign began because our hearts were so touched by those whose hearts have been broken and wounded, and because those girls needed protection or restoring their lives. She goes on to talk about 3 specific ways that the 821 does to help combat human trafficking. The first is to develop shelter where women can recover and rebuild their lives. The second is to create prevention training and educational materials. A lot of times traffickers will go into a place where there's not a lot of money, not a lot of knowledge, and they'll promise a job or a lucrative position for this couple's children in a different country. And so the couple, thinking that they're doing well, ships their children off with this man or woman who's promising a better life. And that's really one of the primary ways that traffickers get victims under their control. And so the H21 campaign wants to let people know, hey, red flag, don't do that. A third way is that they go to court to put traffickers behind bars. And so this way, they're letting perpetrators know that the H21 campaign just isn't against human trafficking, but the justice system is as well. So with that vision in mind, what can we as Clemson students do to help with this? We give 3 ways. First way, super simple, social media. Most of us in here has a Twitter or Facebook or an Instagram where we can follow or like or befriend the H21 campaign. Doing that, we'll get more resources and information on what's going on in the human trafficking world and what the H21 campaign is doing. And then in turn, we can share that information with followers and friends and family who can make a difference as well. A second way we can help, and probably one of my favorites, is wearing apparel that will help enlighten others about human trafficking. So right here, this shirt says, "Ask me about 27," in reference to the approximate 27 million slaves in the world today. I wore this today. I got asked about 4 times, and I gave my little 45-second spiel on what human trafficking was and different ways that they can help solve it, including the H21 campaign. And I believe in this so much. I think it's such a cool tool to use face-to-face that I'm actually giving out 6 of these after all the speeches are completed. I think we have 4 mediums and 2 larges. So if you're interested, come up to me. They're totally free of charge. I'd love to partner with you in this. And the third way we can help partner with the H21 campaign, and probably the one that gets the most backlash, is giving financially. Obviously, the H21 campaign couldn't do all that they do without money. And so this is my digital receipt of when I gave about $50 to the H21 campaign online, super simple, a few weeks ago. And I'm just showing you this because I don't want to tell you to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. And I want to just say, like, just on a guy to peer stance here, is like, it's not really about like having money in terms of giving to a cause of the H21 campaign. It's more about sacrifice. And so what that $50 means for me is like, maybe I'm not going to go out to eat that much next semester. Maybe I'm going to wait 2 months to get my new tennis shoes. Maybe I'm not going to buy the new vehicle. But I promise, this is just on a personal level, like when I hear the stories that the H21 campaign shares about girls whose lives are not only like set free from the bondage that they're in, but how the H21 campaign is walking with them every step of the way to rebuild their lives, help them contribute to the world, and more importantly, gain their sense of self back. It's like, okay, you know what, that's probably worth it. I think my $50 is probably better in the H21 campaign's hands than it is in mine. And so I encourage you to join with me on that, and it's just such a joy to be a part of something that is changing people's lives. And the H21 campaign also gives 21 specific ways to help on their website, which was last updated in 2014, so you can find your perfect niche and where you can get involved and use your specific skills and resources to help out. So I hope you now feel empowered to fight human trafficking around the world. Just remember that it is modern-day slavery. It's happening right where we live, and it's happening sometimes to people just like us. So unfortunately, human trafficking is a monstrous problem in the United States. But fortunately, we don't have to sit on the sidelines and let it happen here or anywhere across the globe. So I believe in you, I believe in myself, I believe that we can abolish slavery in the 21st century. Thank you.